You told me something really interesting that billionaires subtract. Why is it that billionaires subtract when everyone else is thinking about addition and multiplication?
Yeah, it's a great question and it's really an interesting answer. So I was talking to a really rich guy one time, and basically he told me this thing. He said, "Poor people add, rich people multiply, and billionaires subtract." I had heard the poor people add and rich people multiply as I had kind of gone up the chain in business, because the poor people, the lower level, you add stuff, you try and become as busy as possible, you get credit for being busy, you look good for being busy, and then as you get to director level and whatnot, you try to put systems and automation in place so that you can multiply, multiply your time, multiply your productivity and things like that. But when he said rich people subtract, I asked him about that, and he basically was saying what rich people do is they take stuff completely off their plate. And so it kind of goes back to the 80/20, but it's even more than that. It could be meetings. So he got down to 3 meetings a day, and this guy's super rich. 3 meetings a day. Could be emails. He might only open 2 out of 100 emails. He scans them, opens what's important, and doesn't open what's not. So I always tell people I've got 13,000 unread emails. Is it because I'm lazy, or is it because I'm super productive? You know what I mean? I spend a half hour a day reading emails, and I get just as many emails as everybody else. You know what I mean? Um, so, so rich people multiply, but billionaires subtract, and it's all about taking things all the way down to only focusing on the one or two or three things that are the most important and driving the most productivity and the most money.
Hey, business leaders and marketers, what if your brand could be featured right here? This ad spot could be yours. This channel is watched by a dedicated audience of ambitious founders, executives, and professionals who are actively looking for tools and services to help their business grow. If you want to put your brand in front of this highly dedicated audience that's difficult to reach, I'm currently looking for a few strategic partners for the channel. To learn more about sponsorship opportunities, click the link in the description. Let's grow together. Do you think that they're able to do this because they have already automated and abstracted and hired a team to manage those other things?
It's a good question. It definitely makes it easier when you're automating money on the outside. But even those folks and even the other businesses I've been in, you make all your money from just a handful of things. So when you look at the 80/20, you really 20% of your activities or 20% of your customers or 20% of your products is driving 80% of your revenue and 80% of your profit. It almost always works out to that Pareto principle. And what he's saying is even keeping that extra stuff around is making you unproductive. So focusing on having to outsource it, having the resources in place to deal with those other people, deal with those other products. He said if you can just focus on the one or two products that are making all your money, and you think about all that time you put into the other products and invest that back into the one that's making money, that's when you start really making a lot of money. So if you think about the people who really started out, like now they've gotten bigger, but Jeff Bezos got really good at books. You know what I mean? Like that's what he got good at. Google got really good at the web page. That's what they got good at. That web page was just so clean and so perfect, and that's what they focused on. Google could have done anything once they got the traffic. They could have turned into Yahoo with the crazy web page and all this stuff, but they stuck with the simplicity, drove traffic, and then found ways to make money from the traffic coming in.
Yeah, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I never really thought of this deeply, but it makes sense now. That when I had a consulting business back in China in 2016, 17, 2018, I had started off trying to be a fundraiser for companies. They're either Chinese companies that didn't speak English but wanted Western investors, or Westerners in China that wanted money from Chinese investors.
Sure.
And it was focused on the blockchain space. So it was a huge thing in the moment. So I hit at the right place at the right time. So I tried to start fundraising for them. And doing that got people to want me to be their advisor, which paid a lot more money. and was guaranteed. And then when I was doing that, I realized that they needed other things like getting listed on exchanges. And those were the things that really made me even a magnitude of order higher in money than the other things I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I realized that, I stopped taking on positions as an advisor and I stopped doing fundraisings, and I just tried to get as many clients as I could listed on as many of those exchanges as I could, because sometimes it would only be 3 or 4 days of work until it went from conversation payment being listed on the exchange. So I was getting paid pretty quickly for very little work, and I exploited that for as long as I could until the industry collapsed because people were spending money on things they shouldn't and making promises that they couldn't keep. The industry had its issues.
Yeah, we talk a lot about profit per minute, and that's exactly what you're talking about, is figuring out what can make you the most money per minute of effort of work. You know what I mean? And especially when you're bootstrapping and you're taking your own money, investing it in your own business, and you only have so much time, and you might have a small team or no team. Every minute counts, and every minute that you're more productive, it's kind of like a compounding interest, as you grow your business. So if you can be more productive than somebody else for a year, you might end up 3 years ahead of them, as that compounds out over your first couple of years of business. So it's so important to be maximizing your basically profit per minute for that first couple of years.
This is something that I've been thinking about for my YouTube channel. I've been doing it for 4 years, and there were so many things that I wasn't doing that I didn't realize I wasn't doing. And when I started to talk to Gemini, I just started feeding it analytics from my YouTube studio. It started telling me things about my audience that I didn't know, and it started telling me things about my videos and my thumbnails and things that I wasn't aware of that were preventing my videos from being searchable. And so now I'm literally I've spent like the last week, and it'll take me another 2 weeks or 3 weeks to fix the over 1,000 videos that I have for their titles, their keywords, their descriptions. Yeah. There's so many things that I missed out on that will now make my content more searchable so it can grow more organically. And like, if I had known all of these things years ago, I wouldn't be in this mess. So I'm fixing a mess that I created by not knowing, by piling up years of content that wasn't searchable.
Yeah. That's such a great point, especially for people who might be trying to build their brand or build their business at the very beginning. And I'm doing the same thing now with the books and the speaking. And what I'm doing is what you're doing is focusing on things that are kind of evergreen and then build on themselves, right? You could go back right now and find a 4-year-old YouTube channel. It'll have 1 million views on it, and people are still finding it. Try and go back and find a 4-year-old tweet. Try and go back and find a 4-year-old LinkedIn post, like they're gone. So there's certain things, and it's like SEO on your website and YouTube are the two biggest things that pop out as kind of this evergreen content. And if you think about it as profit per minute, every minute you put into doing amazing YouTube content or amazing website content builds on itself and actually gets more and more powerful over time. Whereas a lot of people focus on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, and they're diving so much time into it, and that stuff's gone. A month later, it's not searchable anymore.
Right, which is great for YouTube, because I've also created little ads that I'm throwing into the videos and outros. So one of the things I realized that I wasn't doing was I was making shorts, but I wasn't making these horizontal clips that are like 3 to 10 minutes. And what I realized was I can grow the audience much faster organically if I have these, because if somebody doesn't know who I am, but they're being fed a 3-minute video, they're much more likely to watch that 3-minute video than that 30-minute interview.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And even if I don't put an ad in that 3-minute video, at the end of the video, I can say, hey, why don't you watch another one of these things? And I can start to get them to watch a loop of content that then they start to want to watch the interviews. And by doing that, I can create organic watch time, which gets me closer to monetization, which gets me to ad revenue. And if I build this properly, I can get ad revenue from YouTube in my sleep. Now, obviously, in the beginning, it's not going to be much, but it's the snowball effect that, because I have 200 and this is the 265th interview. If I have 265 interviews worth of clips, which is easily 3 to 5 clips each, I can now create another 1,000 or 1,500 videos that are 3 to 5 minutes long that are working all day, every day to bring me more audience members that can then go and watch the videos, the interviews, which can then give me more opportunities for sponsors to put ads inside of the videos. And that stuff is all evergreen, as you said. And so I can also use that to get people to go through funnels that, turn into advisory clients or fundraising clients if I want, or send them over to the automation agency that I've invested in. So there's so much potential that I think a lot of people are ignoring. And I think even though right now I'm not thinking about subtract, I'm thinking add, which sucks. It's the process of creating those processes that will enable me to automate so that it can multiply, so that in the future I can subtract and not have to think about it because it'll be on autopilot, because the content I'm making will generate so much revenue that I can hire people to do the things that I'm doing right now so that they can work to create more revenue.
Let me tell you how this might work into subtract, and then let me blow your mind on some backlink strategy here that might help you, because I'm doing something very similar. So first of all, you could stop everything right now, make no more new content for the next year and a half, and you could probably implement this strategy right here and just blow up your web SEO, your visits, your funnels, everything would go crazy. You take those 265. I assume it's on audio podcast already also, but you take those 265, yes. You turn it into 2 weekly newsletters on LinkedIn. Okay, so you'll have 2 weekly newsletters on LinkedIn. You'll drop one each time, and it'll be a summary. You'll make a detailed summary of it, and then the YouTube embed, okay, in the LinkedIn newsletter. And then you're going to put 3 to 5 backlinks to your website. Okay, then you're going to do the same thing on Substack. You're going to drop one every day. If you want to on Substack, you can put one every day. You'll do 3 to 5 links there back to your website. And on Substack, you want to make sure they're not the same content. So you'll do just the transcript on Substack. Okay. And then you're going to go into YouTube and you're going to do the 3 to 5 backlinks in the YouTube description. And what you've just done is gotten 9 to 15 backlinks from 90 plus domain authority type websites going to your channel for every single YouTube video that you've got. And over the next year, if you wanted to do this, you could put together 3,000 backlinks. Your domain authority on your website, on your SEO, would go up to 60, 70, and your hits per month will blow up. And then if you have one of your automated funnels that you're talking about, it'll just start making you money. You'll start printing cash. In order to do all that work, you've got to subtract, get stuff out of your way so that you can just focus in and knock out this domain authority. And people don't understand, like, you got so much content. You could turn that content you already have. You don't have to do another podcast for a year and a half. Just do this. It'd be better than doing another podcast for a year and a half. You'll have 3,000 links back to your website. Huge domain authority. It's what I'm doing basically right now is I'm going backwards. Instead of new content, I'm going backwards and putting 3,000 links out there.
So I definitely agree that all of those things are valuable and things that I want to get onto. My thing at the moment is fixing the searchability of all of the videos that I have right now and the audio. So I'm fixing the video side and the audio side and building up the clip base, right? Because I've got the shorts going, but I have to do the clips, the 3 to 5 minutes, and I have to connect those in to and make loops with them that also then link over to the full interview so I can get people through there. So I'm trying to create all of this stuff now. And once I'm up to the current episode, because right, I'm dealing with hundreds of episodes, then I can focus on something else like what you're talking about. I just have to get through that so that the content is searchable, because making more content doesn't matter if my old content isn't searchable. There's no reason to give up on that content because there's value. Even if these interviews are 5 years old, the content is valuable and the content is evergreen. Even if it has a date, if it was 5 years ago, the content inside is still evergreen. And so refreshing the titles, refreshing the descriptions, refreshing the tags, making it searchable. All of this stuff is really important. And I've been doing links to my website, links to my LinkedIn, links to the AI agency, telling people about the advisory work that I do. There's a link in every description for that. But then also sponsorship. So I'm heavily focused on building an outbound for my sponsorship, because right now all of my sponsorship inquiries are inbound, and while they're great, they're not consistent. And so the only way to create consistency is to create an outbound. But in order to create an outbound, I have to improve my searchability and my organic growth so that I can reduce my reliance on ads to get those sponsors where they want to be, because they want to see organic.
Yeah.
So there's a tremendous amount of things that are on my plate that are taking my time, that are preventing me from doing those other things, but they're absolutely on my mind. It's just, I have to be able to focus. I as you pointed out, like I have ADD, and so focus is very difficult. And so I have to subtract everything. I have to turn off my phone. I have to turn off all of my applications. I have to turn off everything to be able to just do one thing. And even when I'm sitting there doing that one thing, I am really struggling with not just doing something else and going, screw this, let me do this. Like it's hard. It's hard to focus. It's hard to maintain that. And the only way to be able to do that for me is to just delete everything else from my life at that moment. And sometimes it sucks, but like, it's the only way to get something done is to go, I have to do this thing to completion. It's the only thing I can do until then.
Yeah, I always tell people the easiest way to focus, and I'm bipolar, as I mentioned to you offline, so I have my own issues with focus. But the easiest way to focus for me is to be sure, to be absolutely sure that whatever I'm doing at that very moment maximizes my profit per minute. If I know that there's nothing else I can be doing to be making more money right this second, it's a lot easier for me to zero in and be like, all right, I'm knocking this thing out. You know what I mean? Because you're just so confident that you've done all the deletion, and you know what you're doing right now is going to drive the most dividends for your business growth.
For sure. Yeah. And being in Asia is a blessing and a curse for that right now, because I can only take calls really early in the morning or really late at night, because the people that I'm used to talking to are in the US and they're asleep the rest of the time. So it's a curse because I have to basically work from when I wake up to when I go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a blessing because the majority of my day right now, there's zero interruptions.
Yeah.
So I can have that focus time.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
So I had asked you previously about billionaire subtracting. A lot of the people that are listening to this, they're early in their journey as an entrepreneur. A lot of them are solopreneurs looking at e-commerce and SaaS or /SaaS, and they're on a path to $100,000 a year in revenue. Is it possible to skip through the poor and rich mindset and just, like, could they think like a billionaire from this early stage in order to make their business blow up really fast? Or is it not possible and you have to go through the steps?
I actually think you have to do it in order to skip steps. Like, if you want to skip steps, you have to start thinking like this. So when you're building, you're chasing every single bit of revenue, right? We've all been there. Like you said, somebody comes up and says, "Oh, you want to help me with SEO? I'll go run after that rabbit. You want to consult on this? I'll go run after that rabbit." That's what you do when you build, because it's the fast cash model, right? Like, you want to go out and get whatever cash is available. But what that does is it slows your growth dramatically, because you're going after all this stuff instead of getting really, really good on the couple of things that are going to drive your business and that are going to help you grow. So people will inherently slow themselves down by not focusing. So I talk a lot about the Karelin method, which you and I chatted about. It's basically results equal activity times efficiency times focus. So how much are you working? How efficient are you when you work? And then how much time is spent on those things that are driving all of your revenue. So how can you cut everything else out and make sure that you might have 100 things going on and 20 of them are driving your revenue. And if you're working 40 hours a week, you might only be working 8 hours on those 20% of the things, right? If the guy next to you is working 48 hours a week because he's working 20% more than you, he's automated a bunch of stuff. And now he's just focused in on the couple things that are making money. And he's spending all his 48 hours on that versus your 8. He's spending 6 times as much time on the things that are driving the most revenue. That's the mentality that you have to get to. So you literally have to start thinking about either outsourcing or killing the things that are wasting your time. The 80-20 principle will tell you that 20% of things drive 80% of your revenue, but also 20% of things will take only 20% of your overhead. So all that other stuff that's only delivering 20% of your revenue is taking 80% of your overhead, 80% of your admin time, 80% of your mental headspace, like you're talking about, is spent on the stuff that's not making money. Think about how many times you get distracted and think about how much money you're making on those distractions. Usually distraction time, almost zero revenue.
I think you're giving young people FOMO right now because they're like, damn, there's people that are working more than me. Like, I thought I was already working really hard. Right? Have you heard of monk mode?
No.
So there's this, I think it's like a Gen Z concept, which I have no problem with. I think it's fine. Monk mode is where you basically shut everything off from your life and you just work out, work, go to sleep.
Sure.
And some people will go to Bali for 6 months with a mate or two and they rent a house together and they just do monk mode. They're just supporting each other. They're working out. They're working, whether it's on a business together or different businesses, but side by side, like a co-working. I think it's a really beautiful thing because I think they have the right mindset that I just need to put my head down and do it. I have to get this done. I have to do something. With that said, Gen Z is also really great at being distracted by shiny objects.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the Karelin method. Can you go a little bit more deep into that?
Sure. Yeah, it's named after Alexander Karelin. He's one of the greatest. He is the greatest wrestler of all time. So he was a heavyweight wrestler, Olympic wrestler, went 13 years without losing a match. Actually won a couple of different Olympics without even getting a point scored on him. And the idea here is that he is a monster. Like he is, they called him the Experiment. That was his nickname because he just looked ridiculous, right? And everyone was like, "Oh, he's on performance-enhancing drugs." I mean, they tested him all the time, never got anything. And they would ask him, what do you say to people who say you're on performance-enhancing drugs? And what his answer is the people who accuse me of being on drugs have never worked as hard in a single day as I work every day. And the idea is that he spent all of his time on the things that was going to make him a better wrestler. So people are out there doing bench press, they're out there doing this and that, and he's doing things that literally make him stronger on these specific moves, that he's going to be doing. And it's just all about focus, all about training in a different way and thinking about things differently. And you and I chatted a little bit about that. Like, you are never going to make more money than the guy next to you if you read the same 20 business books and you do the same stuff that's in the business books as all of your competitors, right? You're going up against smart people. We've all read them. I've read them too. You have to act differently, though, if you want to make a differentiated amount of money. And so you have to train differently. You have to think differently. You have to focus very differently if you want to skip steps and move to that next level faster.
And how are you applying that in your life?
Yeah, I mean, so I run a large business now, as I mentioned. So I've run small businesses. Right now, I run a $90 million business, and essentially, it is all we talk about is focus. So we cut SKUs, we increase price, we get paid for complexity. So if we're going to take on something, that actually does distract us or does add complexity to the situation, you either outsource it or you get paid for it or you cut it out. You know what I mean? So those are the kind of the ideas behind the 80-20 and the Karelin method is it might not always be a don't do it, like a no. Maybe it's a yes, but. Yes, I will take on that extra consulting gig, but I'm going to get paid for it because I know it's going to distract me. I know it's going to take me off the 8 ball. So if I take that on, it's going to be at this price instead of this price. And it's okay if they say no, because if they say no, I'm going to get to invest that time back into the 80, and so that's how I do it. I mean, I like I said, every month I'll go through my email or go through my meetings and I look at what I can kill. So what meetings can I kill? What meetings can I shorten? What meetings can I lower the invitees and try to get people down as much as possible? And then I have everybody in the company do it. And that way we're all spending less time in meetings, more time working. And then we do the same thing with emails. So how many emails can you cut out? Do you know what happens when I stop sending emails? This is an awesome trick. I've done this now the last couple of weeks. I just stopped sending emails. And because when I send an email, my whole team then sends emails down to their guys, and that team sends emails around, and everyone's struggling to figure out like what I want to get accomplished. So I just stopped sending emails. The first thing you notice is that you stop getting emails back, right? I don't get 15 responses back anymore. So now I have less to do. I have less incoming stuff to do. And what I do now is I pick up the phone and call, or I walk around the room, and get in somebody's desk and get in somebody's office and talk to them. But this is how you really focus in and think about the things that you might be doing that are driving all this extra admin work, driving all this extra activity, driving all this extra inefficiency in your day and in your company.
Can you tell me a little more about the company? What does it do?
Yeah, right now I run a food equipment company. So I run one of the divisions for JBT Morrell, which is a $4 billion company. But I run one of the divisions in Ohio. And then on the side, of course, I've got my books and I'm building my brand. So I've got a website that I'm putting together at toddagopian.com. And I just basically am going to launch 3 books, got a 3-book deal, and I'm building that brand. So that's the one that I'm more bootstrapping, like you're talking about, and trying to focus in on all my time spent building. So
You said you got a 3-book deal with a publisher?
yeah, actually I had started out as self-publishing, and I was working through that, and I was writing, and I was kind of talking with publishers here and there, and I ended up running into one, and I told them my plan, because I had this plan to publish 3 books, and it's basically this business trilogy concept where you launch business fiction first, which is not very common, but is extremely effective. So you launch business fiction first to illustrate the model. Then you launch a nonfiction book second to explain all of it in greater detail. And then you launch a contrarian book third, a contrarian leadership book, which are really popular, to show how to implement the idea. And then if things go right, I will launch a 4th and a 5th, which will be assessment-based books like Strength Finder, that will go around business transformation. So what type of business transformation leader are you? What type of executive are you? So I think this is going to turn into a five book kind of 5-book deal here. And so, like I told you, since I'm going to be launching books for the next 3 years, it's really important that I spend all my time on things that will not only help this first launch, it's actually more important that they're going to build and build and build throughout. So I might not even be working on the same stuff as you might be if you were going to launch one book, right? I'm working on stuff that 18, 24 months from now are going to really start hitting, so that when the 3rd book comes out, I've really got a 20,000 person email list and a 30,000 person email list and a huge SEO score. And maybe I'm in, Portugal and Canada and UK websites and stuff like that by then,
I tried to self-publish 3 nonfiction books. Well, I successfully self-published 3 nonfiction books that nobody bought, which is fine. I did it because I wanted to test myself, and I didn't have anything to do. I was recovering from an injury, so it was an exercise for me to focus my energy on something positive. And so I was able to write these 3 books in about 6 months. I didn't have a job, so I had nothing to do. So I literally just wrote all day, every day, and they were nonfiction. 2 of them were about life in China. One was about life in the US from the point of view of trying to understand the culture, the language, different aspects of how to get around this culture. And, you know, a lot of what I did, and the reason why it took so long was, one, AI didn't exist yet. And two, a lot of what I did in the Chinese culture books were taking like, oh, if you're going to move to China, you need a bank account. Okay, well, here's a bank form, and I'm translating it for you so that you can go to the bank and you can read the form.
Right.
So I did a lot of that. So I had to go around and I had to get these forms. I had to, precisely figure out what is the process for the SIM card, because I was already living there. So like, it's easy to just go and do it. Where I saw people talking about culture, but nobody was talking about how to actually move to China and live in China and thrive in China. But I never sold any of those copies. But it was great. It's still on my Amazon. I think you could probably even buy it still. But and previously when I was younger, I started 5 fiction novels and never finished the second chapter of any of them.
Yeah.
But I knew exactly how I wanted the stories to go. And I had the beginning, the ending. So I had chapter 1, chapter 2, and whatever the final chapter was, but I had none of it in between for any of the books. That's ADD. You're great at starting things. And that's why when I was able to finish those 3 books, which they were all like 80 pages each, these fiction, these nonfiction, to finish something and publish something was such an accomplishment for someone with ADD. So I don't envy the work you have to do to make it happen, but it's definitely great that you have that opportunity, and I hope you do well with that. Something that I will mention to you is I met a guy. I don't think I ended up interviewing him, but he said that he figured out how to run profitable ads on Amazon. And so he was selling like, I think $10,000 to $15,000 a month worth of books based on like $1,000 in ads.
Yeah, there's some very cool automated funnels, and there's a lot of people out there selling different versions of it now. Most of them are making money not on the books. They're making like they've got the book, and then they might sell the book for just shipping and handling. $9 you get the book, and then as soon as you buy it, you get that offer that's like, hey, you want the $60 webinar? Hey, you want this $100 masterclass? Hey, you want this $1,000 coaching? And what they can do if you automate those funnels, and you know that every $1,000 you put in, you're going to get $1,200 back in whatever coaching, webinar, masterclass, or book. Then, if you know you're going to make $1,200 every time you put 1,000 in, you can spend $30,000 a month advertising because you're getting 36 back.
And Alex Hormozy's model is use your credit card.
Yep.
if you know that you could spend $1,000 to get 1,200, then why aren't you spending $1 million right now? Because you'll get 1.2 million. As long as you get that money within 30 days, you can pay off your credit card bill, which means you can afford to continue doing that.
Yep. That's exactly right. There is always a decline curve that you got to be careful of, so you don't outspend the decline curve where suddenly diminishing returns. But it's exactly right, and that's I don't do consulting right now because I've got a job. But that is the model. That people do is they will put consulting on top of that, and as long as they sell to 1 out of every 150 people that buy the book or whatever, that ad is profitable and they can just drive it in. So I've seen people do that where they're selling 10,000 books, on ads. Usually they're not making money on the actual book, but that'd be awesome if that guy is. But usually they're not making money on the book. They're making money on the second and tertiary offers, which is allowing them to drive more book sales,
He's making money on the book because he found a way to, it's something like almost like Amazon is like losing money selling the book for him based on what they're paying him and like what they're selling it for. I don't know exactly what it is. I wish I had spoken to him again, because if I knew, then like I'll try to run ads to my own books and see if people want to buy them.
Yeah.
But it's just another one of those distractions.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would love to have something that can be automated. That because I also have a course. I made a course. That was another thing. I successfully made a video course I went to Thailand for 5 weeks. I was living, obviously I was living in Asia. So like to fly from China to Thailand is like $100 in like 2 hours. So I went to Thailand into the mountains in this tiny little town for 6 weeks, put my head down, and I just made a video course. I had never done it before, but I knew what I wanted to make and I figured out the steps. I did it. And then I self published on Udemy. And even today, 9 years later, I still get checks from Udemy. It's like $3 a month or like $5. Like I don't even, but I did no advertising. All I did was I did, and so over the course of these 9 years, I've made back all of the money that it cost me to make the video and the trip and time in Thailand, and like maybe a bit more. So as far as I'm concerned, I got my money back.
Yeah.
I'm happy with it. So what's the most important thing you've learned from your journey so far?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me, I think, is this evergreen content, but also just this content multiplication strategy that we kind of started talking about. So what I've done, and I've actually automated this now and gotten this into a system so that I can keep doing it on future books. But basically, I break the book into pillars. So you get 10 chapters, 10 pillars of 10 different ideas. And then you start content multiplying from these pillars. So what kind of, you look at all the stuff that drives SEO, drives search, drives GEO, generative AI searches. It's like, so you take that 10 pillars, you'll turn one into a how-to, you'll turn it into a checklist, you'll turn it into a myth buster, you'll turn it into a 10 laws of, and then you also just do a 10,000 plus word pillar article, which you already have because it's in the chapter. So you just turn it into an article. And that becomes a huge get on your website. And here's the deal, and something I've learned, I've worked with Brand Builders Group and they've taught you this. But the idea is that he always says people don't pay for information, they pay for organization. You can put your entire book, every single word of your book, times 2 on your website. Nobody's going to read every page of your website, but people are going to buy from you if they read something they like, or if they see something they like, hear something they like that you say. And so the idea is you take every single bit of your website or every single bit of your book and you turn it into content, and then you turn it into these contents that can multiply, like your YouTube channel. So that YouTube turns into a LinkedIn article, a LinkedIn newsletter, and then it turns into a Substack, and then it turns into 10 articles on your webpage. Now you've got backlinks coming in from really valuable websites. You've got, you might have spent 20 minutes, half hour, I guess you have longer ones. I do 7-minute YouTubes, but you might spend an hour putting that half hour together, and you just turned it into 10 or 15 pieces of content that are going to not only live forever, but also keep driving new traffic to your website. Now, if your sites or if that course is on your website and you've got a funnel to it, now all of a sudden for years and years, not only is it getting, but it's getting bigger, because as that 10,000 word article kind of marinates on your website, it might get 500 hits the first month. By month 18, it's getting, that article alone is getting 8,000 hits. By month 36, it's getting 20,000 hits. You got 1,000 of those on your website. After 5 years, you're up to, 100, 200, 300,000 hits a month of people that are just hitting your website. Now, if you've got the pop-ups and you've got the funnels put together right, every single thing that you've done over the last 3 years that now you're selling stuff off of is making you money. And so it's that long-term mindset, but it's how much am I going to make off of this hour's worth of work? That's what I'm looking at. So if I spend an hour writing an article that's going to live forever and end up getting 8,000 views itself a month, down the road, and it's going to have a pop-up on it that's going to have a $200 offer. You know what I mean? Like, now that 1 hour of work, how much is that making me? And that's what I've learned is, like, I could spend a ton of time doing Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. That's not where the money is. The money is multiplying your content and figuring out your evergreen strategies. And mine are going to be the YouTube and the SEO.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this insight, I've handpicked another video for you right here on the screen. For more actionable strategies that get you real results, hit subscribe.